Looks like you accidentally clicked on one of my videos, but since you're here, let's just go ahead and talk about a book. Well, hello Earth people, this is Creatively Torn, a channel where I mostly talk about books, but sometimes don't. Today I'm talking about a book. This one you might have heard of. It's called The Count of Monte Cristo. But in case you haven't heard of it, here's a little bit of background. So The Count of Monte Cristo is an 1844 novel written by Alexandre Dumas, originally in French. It does take place mostly in France, but also in a couple of different places in the surrounding area. And it takes place in the time of Napoleon and his time on the island of Elba. So that's kind of the backdrop of the setting. Genres can be loosely defined as adventure novel, historical fiction maybe. There's all kinds of different things you could say this book entails. The main character is one Edmond Dantes, who is a sailor, and he begins the book at a pretty good place. He is about to get married to the love of his life. He has his father who lives with him, and he's about to be named the captain of his boat. But then Edmond is framed by a few different people of a crime of being a conspirator to Napoleon as he tries to regain control of France. And he gets sent to jail. So it's not much of a spoiler to say that he does eventually get out of jail. And once he does get out, he begins to plot the revenge of the people who put him in there. So most of the book is centered on the revenge plot after he gets out of prison. And contains a multitude of themes throughout the book, such as justice and revenge, love, redemption, suffering and hope, and all kinds of others. So let's go ahead and talk about the good aspects of the book. This one is a very accessible classic, I think. It's got a very engaging writing style. It's not overly dense or philosophical. It's very easy to read. The translation that I read was from Robin Buss, which I think is one of the more popular ones, but there are others. I did occasionally read from a different translation on my phone when I didn't have the physical book with me, which was different, but still not that bad to read, I don't think. So all in all, I think it's a very easy book to read in terms of older ones. It's got great characters who immediately will win you over. They all have flaws, obviously, but they have reasons for their flaws, and they have redeeming qualities as well, for the most part. And there are a lot of characters, lots of different settings and locales, some different subplots, and even different genres that are at play. So I mentioned the historical kind of setting, also the kind of adventure tale, but there's also romance, political drama, some duels, some nautical adventures for a while, and even at one point there's some chapters that feel like a gothic horror novel. So you got a kind of a wide range of things to pique your interest while you're reading it, and it does feel very readable despite its long length. So there's a lot of interweaving characters and subplots that you might miss on the first time you read it. A lot of different machinations of the entire overarching narrative. But I think if you go back and reread the story after you read it the first time, you'll probably catch more of those things. So I think it's a very rereadable book, despite being very long. So that brings us into the more negative aspects of the book. So the first one I will say is the length, which may turn some people off. The version that I read from was around 1,250 pages. I know there is also an abridged version. I'm not quite sure how much that cuts out. But overall, I would recommend the unabridged version, just to get the full effect. And like I said, it's very accessible and very easy to read. And plus, most of the chapters are very short, around 10 pages or so. So it's very easy to knock those out. Some stretches of the book will go on for quite a long time. There are a few subplots that may have taken too much time out of the book. Could have been condensed a lot to make the book even shorter, or even to allow other subplots to expand. And then the ending does go on for a bit too long. There is a point near the end where you feel like it could be a good stopping place or a good climax of the story, but then it just keeps on going for a long time. There's kind of a point where you're kind of wondering if it's going to wrap anything up, or if it's just kind of meandering about for a while. But then the ending really does wrap up very nicely. It's a very nice ending. It's very gratifying. So it is well worth the read. And like I said, there are a large cast of characters here. Some will go by different names and different titles at some points. So if you're not used to that, that may be a bit hard to keep track of. If that's not something you're used to, I would recommend maybe making some notes, different characters and who they are, just to keep track of them if you want to do that. If not, that's fine too. I didn't do that the first time. I kind of wish I would have, but I didn't, so maybe that gives me more incentive to go back and reread it sometime. So just to summarize, this is definitely a really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. Even in the slow stretches, it's not that bad. Keeps you engaged for most of the narrative. There's lots of I wouldn't say plot twists, but maybe lots of weird revelations and weird points in the story that will keep your attention, I think. And character I really enjoyed. Edmond Dantes is just one of the best characters I've read so far, in terms of his motivations and the way he goes about his plot. It's just very well done. He's a really cool character. But he also has kind of a larger-than-life air about him, so it's very interesting to read anytime when he's involved in the story. It's considered one of the greatest novels of all time, and rightfully so, I think. It has also been adapted into several different media, including silent movies, radio plays, TV miniseries maybe. And then there's a 2002 movie starring Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce and Henry Cavill, which I did recently rewatch. I saw it for the first time several years ago, and I really enjoyed it. Watching it now after having read the book, quite a different experience. I think it's got a really good cast, and the setup in the first half are really good, really well done, but it's not that long of a movie. The later half of the movie is really condensed because they had to rush a lot of different things into the movie, and it's not that long. So it kind of loses a lot of the spirit of the book, but still an okay movie, I think. Worth a watch if you want to give it a chance. Anyways, back to the book. As for a rating, this is a 5-star book, guys. It's no contest. It's a classic for a reason. I think it's an essential classic. The way the character of Edmond Dantes grows throughout the book, both emotionally and physically and spiritually, it's just very engaging and just really done in a spectacular way. It's not just him though. There are also lots of other lovable characters. Some you'll cheer for, some of them you will be happy about when they get what's coming to them, and then some you'll have pity on. I think the themes are very powerful and universal. The anguish and suffering that Edmund goes through when he's thrown into a dungeon just days after being with his fiancée and his father. Those are all very palpable emotions, and so when he does eventually overcome that, it's very genuine and relatable and earned. So overall, just a really good book. Like I said, I think it's an essential classic. So if you are reading classics or have an interest in reading classics, I think this is the one that you definitely need to get to. I think it appeals to a lot of different people. And so needless to say, I do recommend this book to everyone, really. So anyways, that is my review of the Count of Monte Cristo. So I'm going to stop talking now. But thank you for watching. And before you go, don't forget well, looks like no, shut up. Sega. Hey, what's the deal? Love it.